The chair now recognizes the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Gowdy, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Free of legislative micromanaging, the Financial Product Safety Commission could develop nuanced regulatory responses. Some terms might be banned altogether, while others might be permitted only with clear disclosure. So you don't support legislative micromanaging. What about legislative macromanaging?
I'm sorry, Congressman. I don't.
It's a quote from an article you wrote, free of legislative micromanaging. So my question to you is, what is legislative micromanaging? Because to me, it's a euphemism for oversight.
I'm sorry, Congressman. I may have written it, but I'm not sure what the context is. Was it an article?
The context is it's in the Democracy Journal.
All right.
And it is the first public notion that we have of an agency similar to the one that you are going to head in a week. And you wrote an article about.
Yes.
And you said free of legislative micromanaging, the Financial Product Safety Commission could develop nuanced regulatory responses. Some terms might be banned. My question to you is, to some of us, legislative micromanaging is a euphemism for oversight.
Actually, I think this goes to the point that Congressman McHenry raised, and that was the question you may recall. We're trying to figure out how to combine the TILA and RESPA forms, complicated, hard to read, high regulatory compliance cost for the bank, or at least higher, very little value for the consumers. For more than 15 years, the various regulatory agencies have been negotiating to try to bring those together. And as Congressman McHenry said, there have been multiple attempts from Congress trying to do it.
Ms. Warren, my question is actually more general than that. My question is, what is the role for congressional oversight? You don't like legislative micromanaging. You wrote that.
No.
Some of us think that that's oversight. So do you concede that Congress has the authority and should have the authority to, for instance, hypothetically, set the budget for your agency? Is that legislative micromanaging or is that oversight?
Congressman, I was trying to respond to your question, and what I was trying to point out is that it was an example of how difficult it is for Congress to get an appropriate, nuanced response to a specific problem. And in this case, it was combining two forms. That what we've been able to do at the consumer agency, because agencies operate differently, is that we've had banks in, community banks, credit unions. We've been able to put out multiple iterations of the forms. We've been able to adjust. We've been able to consult with groups in ways that is not possible in the legislative process.
Would the gentleman yield for
a
moment?
Yes.
I think Mr. Gowdy is very happy you doing what you're doing. I think what he's really asking is, does Congress have a right to look over your shoulder, and did that statement indicate that you think that Congress not looking over your shoulder, second-guessing your funding or, in fact, your actions? That's, I think, the question, and I haven't heard an answer.
I'm sorry, Congressman. Let me give as straightforward an answer as I could. My direct testimony this morning is, of course, we need to be responsible to the Congress. The Congress should look over our shoulder 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I was trying to explain once I understood where the passage came from, I was just trying to explain what I thought that passage meant. But
well, may the record reflect that your article did not go into the detail that your answer this morning went into on that nuanced point. And so I'll ask a less nuanced question.
Yes, sir.
What about congressional involvement in your budget? Is that micromanaging or is that oversight?
Congressman, I think it is neither. I think that is a big policy and political decision. As you know, sir, not one banking regulator in the history of the United States has ever had its funding through the political process.
So you agree that Congress should not be responsible for setting the budget for your agency?
I believe that Congress should treat all of the banking regulators alike and not say that the one that tries to watch out for consumers is going to be put through the political process and subject to lobbying by trillion-dollar financial institutions.
You did mention oversight in your opening statement, and the distinguished gentleman from Maryland, for whom I have great regard, used the term illegal 7 times. It's been used an additional 5 5 times since Mr. Cummings used it. Criminal and civil engagement with companies is also another form of oversight. If these practices are illegal, then why isn't Eric Holder sitting here with you explaining what he's done? Why do we need your agency if they're already illegal?
Well, Congressman, I think there's a real question about whether there's been adequate investigation into what financial
What have you done with respect to Attorney General Holder and the 90-plus United States attorneys, most of whom have been appointed by this administration? What have you done to cajole them to do their jobs? Because I've heard the word illegal, and that has a very specific meaning to me. If it's illegal, what have you done to cajole the prosecutors to do something about it?
Congressman, that's what we did when we got involved in mortgage settlement and were so sharply criticized for having advised the Department of Justice and our sister agencies as they are trying to work through holding responsible the parties who have violated the law.
You were criticized for referring people for criminal prosecution?
Congressman, we were criticized for trying to help.
By whom? Not me.
Congressman McHenry. Congress.
I'm going to let Congressman McHenry speak for himself. But as a former prosecutor, when I hear the term illegal, which I have heard 12 times this morning, I want to know why there aren't criminal prosecutions, why we need an agency, and the Department of Justice can't do it.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman.